From time to time, a game emerges that is so fun and so addictive that it becomes ruler of its genre. In the world of role-playing games, the Final Fantasy series is king. In the last installment of the series, Final Fantasy X, the creators came up with a cast of characters and locations that were so compelling that no one wanted to leave it all behind. So for the first time in Final Fantasy history, there is a true sequel, Final Fantasy X-2.
There has never been a true sequel to a Final Fantasy game, one that keeps the same storyline and characters. Since it's never been done, I never considered doing it for Final Fantasy X.
Because the quality of 10 was so high and it was so well liked by everyone, a sequel was highly encouraged. We were already considering a sequel because we'd never done that before in the Final Fantasy series. I think the appeal of the characters and the world presented in 10 stayed in our hearts and the users' hearts.
The idea for the sequel actually originated with a short story that was included with the international version of Final Fantasy X called The Eternal Calm.
In Japan, we released the international version, and we added a short story, approximately 20 minutes long, about what happened afterward. Many users told us they wanted to see even more.
So ultimately, The Eternal Calm is an epilogue to 10 and prologue to 10-2.
Like all good sequels, 10-2 manages to strike just the right balance between introducing new elements and returning to the familiar favorites of the original. In this case, the creators brought back two characters we've met before, Yuna and Riku, and introduces them to a girl named Pain. Put these three females together and you've got an unstoppable trio, with the right skills that can save any town and topple any beast.
We wanted to try something different that we hadn't done in the Final Fantasy series. We never before tried a version that was centered on female characters. Since Yuna happened to be one of the main characters in 10, we decided to move our focus to her and her friends by having them go on a journey.
In this version, I wanted women to play with the emotion of being the main characters themselves.
One change from Final Fantasy X that you will really appreciate is all of the great costumes that not only give you additional abilities but also make you look good.
In the world of 10-2, there is a thing called a dress sphere, which allows characters to change their costumes. And by inserting it into the garment grid, the costume change becomes possible, within limits. Also, the garment grid itself has some functions. During a battle, the more costume changes that happen, the more powerful it becomes. This version was made so that if a player cannot win with one particular job, he or she can switch to another. The personality of each one is so strong and unique, it might become clear that they can win with one job, but not with another. Switching between the spheres makes the battle easier, but on the other hand, the longer a player studies a job, the more powerful they become by learning new abilities.
Gamers will also appreciate changes made to the battle system. They are now in real time and allow the characters to move around simultaneously, harkening back to the days of previous Final Fantasy games.
In the last version, time stops during the battles, and the player can take time to think while fighting, as he and the enemy alternate turns. In this version, we use the active time battle system, as we did in 9 and in earlier versions. It allows real-time battle with time running. Also, we upgraded the system so the two can move simultaneously or can counterattack. Compared to 10, 10-2 is much more action-oriented.
And for those of you who have never played a Final Fantasy game, you've been missing out, but it's not too late. You can jump right into this one without knowing a thing about the past.
New players can completely enjoy Final Fantasy X-2. The battles and the character development are created in a way that users can have fun, even if they didn't play the previous version.
Whether the girls are dressed to kill or dressed to boogie, you'll have plenty of opportunities to explore and test their powers within a truly non-linear atmosphere. You have the freedom to jump from mission to mission, experience different endings, and really control your own fate.
The highlight of this version is the freedom given to the player both in battle and in determining the scenario. In Final Fantasy X, the players followed the story. This time they create their own story and write their own endings.
Because there are so many possible endings, the player can play the game almost endlessly.
And if you prefer a little guidance in going from one mission to the next, feel free to use a tool called Active Link. It can come in pretty handy.
Active Link is something that leads a player to the next location after clearing a mission. Though the story is up to the player, this will help players decide what they might want to check out next.
And if you have played Final Fantasy before, then you're in for another awesome adventure.
I guess that playing Final Fantasy X will make it even more fun. What can I say? I think attachment and knowledge of Spira allows one to realize and appreciate some of the differences of X too.
So it looks like the creators of Final Fantasy X-2 thought they could win our hearts and devotion yet again by simply giving us a fun plot, updated locations, more freedom, and an action-oriented battle system. And they were right.